Hello, everyone. Sorry for being late. Welcome to Pirates Parley, episode 20. This week I have none other than the Italian stallion, Alessandro Decina from Anza Labs. I can already hear him laughing. This is going to be a great episode. Please welcome Alessandro, everyone. Yeah, there you are.
Thank you. Sorry for all the drama. I'm glad we made it.
Yeah, no worries. Well, if anyone should be able to fix it, then it should be you because you were just bragging about your previous job where you actually worked on streaming solutions, audiovisual connections. For those that don't
Correct.
know who you are or how you came to be, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am, as you can see from my beard, one of the oldest people around here. And so I've been doing a lot of things that I guess led me to Solana. As I was saying to Steve before we started this, I spent uh, probably 15 years at the start of my career working on multimedia systems and so on, like audio and video streaming and that kind of stuff. I was a consultant around open source for the whole time. So literally everything I've done is open source except a very small interlude I had when I was at Spotify, which I ended up regretting because it was not open source and I realized it was not for me. But otherwise, I've always been working open source, starting on multimedia stuff. Even earlier, I started programming when I was really young on Linux and GNOME and contributing to, I lost count, but at some point I had contributed and sent committed patches to more than 50 repositories. And I used to be pretty proud of that.
Wow, that's
Then,
crazy. 50 repositories.
yeah, yeah, I still have this thing where if I find, and this is not like I'm not bragging. This is not a good thing. But like if I find a bug somewhere, I cannot just report the issue. I have to fix the issue and then I send a patch for the issue, or like I will literally not be able to sleep. It's just how my brain is wired. And so right now I actually actively try to use as little software as possible so that I don't have to fix it, right? So yeah, then at some point about 10 years ago, I ended up switching more to network security. I started working for this startup that was doing deep packet inspection, selling like a malware and hacking protection and that kind of stuff. It's funny because they were actually trying to use AI at the time, but this was like pre LLMs, and so like it just did not work, and that company actually ended up failing. But at that company, I wrote my first implementation of XDP. I started working with eBPF. At the time, I was doing it in C because it was the only option.
Wait, you actually wrote the XDP?
No, so this was like about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and XDP as a technology was just starting, was just,
All right.
starting to get used upstream in Linux. And I wrote an XDP implementation for this company because they were doing packet inspection. So they were analyzing millions of packets per second from user space and applying a bunch of rules to detect traffic and analyze the traffic and stuff like that. Uh, and we were doing that with eBPF and XTP, but from C, because at the time the only option to work with that kind of software was to use C. And then this company kind of asked me to just look at as a side project on whether it would be possible to use Rust to do the same thing, because most people at the company, they were not very good at C. They were like, Rust was coming up, people were very excited about it, and so the company was like, let's see if we can try to do something from Rust. And so that's how I got into the Rust eBPF ecosystem. I ended up adding eBPF support to the Rust compiler, and that's what led me to Solana. Because then Solana at the time was starting to look into eBPF for the chain, for smart contracts and stuff. Yeah, like some people reached out and they asked me if I wanted to, yeah, get into this. some regrets, but here we are.
That was gonna be my next question. Do you regret it, or do you like working
Oh yeah,
on
absolutely. No.
Solana?
I like working on Solana. I do not particularly enjoy everything else around. So like crypto and crypto Twitter especially, it's all a bit weird to me. But Solana, yeah, I enjoy it very much. I love I have the best job in the world. Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
you like killing bugs. I understand. So you
Right.
love working on Solana. It's like a
Mhm.
target rich
Yeah,
environment.
plenty of bugs. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah, the reason I invited you is you are so
Hey,
passionate.
hold on. Let me say something. I forgot to say this. I need to say this because I don't think he's listening or watching, but just in case he is, uh, I might be about to lose all respect from Trent because Trent is extremely anti-podcasts. So I do not go on podcasts. I'm doing this just because, I respect you. You guys send me a lot of PRs. So this is not a podcast appearance. This is like a collaboration. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
Sorry.
yeah, it's powered by Triton One, but yeah, it's still
Right.
just a conversation which is recorded, which is
Cool.
essentially
Yeah.
the definition of a
No, not
podcast.
a podcast.
It's a conversation. Hi, Trent.
Great.
All right.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were asking something.
Yes, I don't write down questions. I just have a conversation, so I forgot the question. But what about what are you the most? Oh, yeah, I was telling the reason I invited you is I saw you the first time I really saw you on stage was I think during Ship or Die in New York,
Mm.
which was last year. It was the first Solana Accelerate, and you are so passionate about what you do, and I just was just taken away with so much energy, and so yeah, so it's great to have you on.
Nice.
I did some digging into what you do, but my brain is also fairly smooth. So yeah, I don't know too much, but I'm gonna try my best. What are the amounts of things you guys achieved in terms of optimizing the Solana client in the last 2-3 years? The amounts of bug fixes that got shipped, it's crazy. We went from Solana 1 to Solana version 2, I think less than 2 years ago. Right now we're running on 4. What are these different versions? What are the biggest improvements? And yeah, tell us a little bit about that. At what version did you get brought on? And walk us through that for a bit if you want.
Sure. I think I joined around 114, like one of the extremely cursed point one releases that ended up taking like it was supposed to take a few months to ship, ended up taking years. At some point, one branch was just deleted because like people were like, "Oh no, this is garbage. We cannot ship this at all. So let's just pretend it never happened." Then this is like around the time when Solana itself was actually crushing it in terms of popularity with NFTs, and people were just being super degens with NFTs and stuff. So the chain was popular, and it was probably a little too popular, and so it was starting to get congested. And at that time, I was working on the compiler and on the virtual machine. So I was doing my job in the team I was originally assigned, effectively. But then at some point, the chain started struggling, and we had an outage, and things got congested. And at some point, we had an offsite where people were so discouraged. They were talking about rewriting the client in Java, like just abandoning Agave, rewriting a new client in Java. And at that point, I was like, okay, I need to step in. Like someone needs to do something. And around that time, I decided, okay, I'll step out of this or of my little virtual machine garden and just start optimizing around. And so I started optimizing QUIC. At the time, they had just rewritten TPU to use QUIC instead of just plain UDP to ingest transactions, because people were spamming like crazy. And so they thought, well, we use QUIC. QUIC has a control flow and authentication and a bunch of nice properties that we would like to have. They did not do a particularly good job of writing that code. I mean, partly it's because it was, it's not like, to be serious for like 15 seconds, then I will never be serious again. But it is actually hard to change a system the size of Solana while it's running, because like it's, like a permissionless and distributed system is nice in principle, but then operationally in practice, it's also a huge nightmare, right? Because like you have
totally
this
calls it
cluster that
building the plane as you're already flying it.
Yeah. So it is actually pretty hard. But so there were some issues with the QUIC code, and so I stepped in. Some people were suggesting inventing new protocols and new hardware and doing all kinds of crazy things. And instead, I just told them, we can, just fix the bugs. Like we take 4 weeks off, we fix all the bugs, and then we carry on. And so, yeah, we did that. We had I think it was like the last 1.0 release was 118, I think, which was the first release where we kind of started stabilizing stuff. Like for the first time, we started having some visibility into what was actually happening into the cluster. At the time, I started writing this profiler called Solana now. At the time, I was just starting to instrument things and figuring out why things were not working. And then after 118, we released 2.0, which at the time I tweeted is the first usable Solana version. Okay. So from 2.0, I think we really turned the page. And then we had 2.2, which was also another huge step improvement over what we had before. We stabilized TPU. So TPU used to get congested. And by 2.2, that was not an issue anymore.
Was that when state-weighted quality of service got introduced, or?
So it got introduced earlier, but it didn't work. So in 2.0, it's when it started working. So we had some bugs in the initial releases of stake-weighted QoS, where the whole idea behind stake-weighted QoS is that based on how much stake you have, we give you some quota per second, and you're not allowed to exceed that quota. But there was a bug in the initial implementation where you were actually incentivized to send as fast as possible, which people figured out very quickly. And so people were just spamming even more than before when we used to have just plain UDP. So we fixed that. We stabilized TPU. We fixed a lot of issues in replay. Replay used to have a lot of it was very spiky. Like some blocks just took a very long time to replay. So we fixed all of that. And just to give you an idea, like obviously we have all kinds of metrics by which we judge the health of the cluster. At some point, at the peak of the congestion period, this congestion period, by the way, was so much fun for me, because it was like just like adrenaline to the roof. Like, it was like fires nonstop. It was objectively stressful, but also really fun. And at some point, they gave me access to a node with a lot of stake at the time. I think it used to belong to Foundation, or like it was a very large node. And because it had so much stake, it was leader very often. And so this node was just completely overwhelmed all the time. And this particular validator used to have a skip rate of 33%. So like 33% of its block got skipped.
For those who don't know what a skip rate is, can you briefly explain?
Yeah. So, in Solana, you have the leaders that rotate. Each leader gets 4 slots. And then, a leader will produce a slot. It will distribute it in the cluster. The cluster will replay it, verify that everything is okay. If the cluster agrees on the state, on the hash of the block, then the block is confirmed. if the block is invalid or if the leader is too slow to produce a block so that the cluster does not receive anything to validate effectively, the block is skipped, right? It moves to the next block, and if the leader is not even able to produce the next slot, and so the next leader at some point kicks in, the leader just skips some or all of its blocks. This leader was so slow to produce its slots that it was just getting skipped 33% of the time.
Damn.
And to give you an idea, by 2.3, skip rate dropped to 0.5% from 33%, right? So it was a huge improvement. That's why I mean, again, this is why I made a tweet around 2.0. Like skip blocks, for example, it went from being a concrete issue, something that operators were watching, we were watching internally as a metric to understand how the cluster was doing, to something that we don't even look at anymore. Like we just know that we don't skip blocks anymore. It's a completely solved issue, right?
Yeah,
There's like
the skip rate is so
many
high,
such
it
cases.
makes no sense to run a validator because you are voting on blocks, so you're losing money and you're not making money. That's wild.
But also the worst part is if you are, like if you're trying to land a transaction and like 33% of the transactions just disappear into the void, it's not great. It's not a great user experience, right?
Yeah, that's also true. Does a transaction get retried if a slot gets dropped?
No.
No.
So this was one of the issues that happened at the time, that because it was so hard to land transactions, RPC providers or transaction senders in general, they were just retrying in loops, because it was not deterministic at all. So it was actually your best bet to just hammer the chain and hope that a transaction would land. These days, I think you guys at Triton, but I don't think that anyone is even doing retries anymore, because like usually a transaction just lands.
Yeah. Well, hopefully. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'll check on that. And if we're not doing it, then I know what to do. Yeah, I'm the business developer. You guys are the smart ones.
Oh no, I've been talking to guys at Triton and to all the other transaction senders, and things have improved massively compared to a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think the Jet client that got written by us is a good work of art. It's very customizable.
Yeah, it's really good.
It allows for taking the pieces that you want and not doing the things you don't want, instead of one solution fits all. I agree. We're huge fans of your work as well, by the way. So thanks again for being all fanboy. All right, so let's talk about Solana 3.0. What got improved with 3.0?
Just in general, at some point we started focusing a lot more in performance, but while at the beginning we had a bunch of fires effectively, and we went to fix the next fire. At some point there was a shift inside Anza more globally. Now everyone works on performance. Like at some point we used to have like a dedicated performance team, and we would take care of that.
You were leading you were head of the performance team, right? Yes.
Yeah.
What were the other teams?
But we have a team for the account state, the accounts database team. We have the networking team, obviously the consensus team. Yes, so there's a bunch of vertical teams, but we, the performance team, were more like spanning all these other vertical teams.
You guys were the fire.
But right now,
you guys would go in and put out the fire and then go to the next department.
But the thing, and that was great, and that was fun, to be honest. But it was also a bit strange to have to go to people and tell them, "Hey, your code sucks. We have to redo it," right? And so at some point there was actually a shift in the company, and now everyone is a lot more mindful about performance. Everyone does their own profiling. The accounts database people have been doing an amazing job at improving performance, reducing the amount of data that gets written on disk. This is all stuff that happened later on, like from 3.0 onwards, where we had more time, like fewer fires, more time to do, things correctly from first principles. And so from there, a lot of things got better. The accounts database got so much better. The accounts database used to be the only component of Agave that I thought we just have to throw away and restart from scratch. It's probably like too late to fix it. And instead, it turns out I was wrong. Like they did an amazing job. Brooks, Rory, and Kamil has been helped. Like a lot of people working on that. So that has got so much better. I have personally been improving replay because we got to the point where when we first started this whole performance project, executing transactions was not even like the fifth slowest. It was not even in the hot path because everything else around it was so slow and so bad that it was just like larger overhead even before we started executing transactions. But once we removed all that overhead, then we started seeing that replay started being in the hot path. And so we started optimizing more the program runtime, the virtual machine, the way we compile the code. We just landed a month and a half ago some changes to speed up JIT compilation, which just used to be one of the largest bottlenecks in transaction execution when you hit a program that was not compiled. Just in general, there was a point about, I think, around end of 2024, where everyone just started focusing a lot more on performance. And so kind of everything just got so much better. And these days, the focus is mostly on replay. Obviously, there's the consensus people trying to ship Alpenglow. That is a huge project in itself. But performance-wise, like improvement-wise, it's mostly trying to stabilize replay, reducing overhead in turbine, XTP, all that kind of stuff.
So a lot of people in the chat already mentioned XDP, and yeah, I think it must be really exciting to have that rolled out. I think probably more than 66% of the network already, activated XDP.
Yep.
For those who don't know what it is, can you briefly go over what it is and what it means for the network? And then
Sure.
I have a good follow-up question from Ansel. Keep sending them in. I'll try to integrate them into the conversation as best as I can.
Cool. So when we fixed all the fires about a year and a half ago, we started thinking, okay, how do we actually push forward now? Like if we want to make larger blocks, if we want to make shorter blocks, what is it that we need to improve before we can get to that? And so we have this amazing project internally called the Invalidator. We have a whole team that works on this project, which works on effectively attacking the cluster all the time and trying to find the biggest bottlenecks or bugs or security issues. And so on the invalidator cluster, we started producing really, really large blocks, like way more, like orders of magnitude more CUs than what we do on mainnet. And we immediately saw that the bottleneck then became the networking layer, turbine. And not only turbine conceptually, the way the tree works, the whole propagation through layers and all of that, but even just the code itself, the way it was written using syscalls to send syscalls and sockets to send packets. We found this inflection point where past which effectively turbine stopped working. And this is what I talked about at Scale or Die. And so XTP is a way to do networking, bypassing all the overhead that is incurred if you use the regular, kernel BSD socket APIs. So the way that the kernel APIs work is that you create a socket, you bind it to a port, and then you start sending packets to that socket. Every time you send a packet or a batch of packets, that's a syscall. A syscall obviously is low. I will not ask you why a syscall is low, but this is one of the questions I ask people when I interview them, and it's my icebreaker. So I expect everyone listening to this to know why a syscall is low. And so there is a point after which if you just do too many of these syscalls, you end up spending all of your time in the kernel doing this overhead that happens when you do a syscall. And so you cannot send at the rate at which you want to send. You're bottlenecked by you hit this door in the kernel, and you cannot fit as much data as you want effectively. Right?
So if I understand it correctly, it's somewhat like if I send a postcard and then the postman brings it to someone and sends him the message. But if I send 1 million postcards and keep sending postcards, the mailman keeps stacking and ordering the postcards without delivering them. Is that a bit of an analogy for this bottleneck? Or
a better analogy is what if we get rid of the postman and we just bring the recipient closer to us, and we just give stuff much faster to the recipient, right? We cut the middleman, the postman being the kernel. We just do not deal with that slow guy anymore, and we just go fast straight to the recipient, right? So in this case, the recipient will be the NIC, the network card. And with XTP, you're able to connect directly to the network card from user space, so from the validator in the case of Solana. And instead of for each packet having to go through the kernel to then go inside the NIC, you're connected to the NIC, you have access directly to the memory of the NIC, and you just write the packets inside the NIC. And so this allows you to effectively go as fast as the NIC allows, which is what you want, right? Because then if you want to send faster, you just buy a faster NIC, right?
I am
yeah,
nodding.
So this is a short what XCP. Yeah.
I'm nodding, but I think I understand.
Cool. We killed the postman. There's no postman anymore.
Nice. All right. Yeah.
And so we rewrote parts of Turbine to use XTP. The idea being we already have a SIMD that says that we want to do 100 million CU large blocks. We know that Turbine with sockets slows down. If you are someone like some of the Triton validators, right, with a lot of stake, and you are at the top of Turbine, and so often the leader sends you shreds and you have to resend them as fast as possible. We know that if we do 100 million CU blocks and you're often that guy, that node that gets a lot of shreds from the leader, then you become the bottleneck. With the kernel, you're not able to propagate the shreds as fast as you should. And so with XTP, we solve this problem. And so by having most people in the network have XTP on, we're able to effectively propagate through Turbine as fast as we need at 100 million CUs, which means that now that we finally have a large number of validators in the cluster operating with XTP on, we can finally, and I think at some point in the next month or so, we can finally switch to having 100 million CU blocks, which is something we've been waiting for a long time.
All right. And how big are the blocks right now?
60 million.
60 million. So
it's a big change.
Yeah. So it's almost double.
Yeah.
That's
and there's 100 million is a milestone we set a year and a half ago. So right now the blocks are not always full, but when they're full, we know we're leaving some transactions on the table, right? So we will bump to 100 million CUs, and then we see if demand grows. Now we have the base technology in place. So if people start sending more transactions, there's no reason why we cannot go to 200 million CUs or even further. So right now we have effectively fundamentally fixed this problem. So now the block limit when it comes to the networking layer is not a problem anymore. Obviously, we might find that, say that we start doing 500 million CUs blocks. I'm not saying that we're going to do it, but hypothetically, obviously we will find other bottlenecks, and we will have to fix those bottlenecks. But we know that the networking is not going to be a bottleneck anymore, which is great.
And we can also increase decrease block time to have more CUs per second go through. What are the?
That is super exciting. That is actually something that is coming in 4.2, which should be end of July, I think. We're planning to switch on 200 milliseconds Like,
I think I lost you there for a second. So yeah, it's up to me to fill in the gap here. Let me send Alessandro a quick message. Thanks for all the questions coming in, and Alessandro is back. Hello. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Keep going. He can't hear me yet.
oh,
Yes.
we are back.
Yes. Thank you. Small blip.
Awesome.
We were talking about
Not sure.
yeah, we were talking about increasing block size. Then I asked about decreasing block time, and the deadline for both is within the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, so we're doing whatever we're racing both. So if we can do bigger blocks first, we do bigger blocks. If we can do shorter blocks first, we do shorter blocks. We'll see where we are in about 6 weeks.
So aren't you concerned that there might be some things that might break when you're doing this while the network activity is so low as it is? So right now there's not all blocks, many blocks are not full. There's no bullshit transactions happening right now. There's no leaders of countries in the West launching shitters.
We have to bring that back. That was like
Yes,
peak crypto.
it was good for the network, I think. But yeah, aren't you like concerned that innovating and developing too fast might become problematic as soon as the market picks up again?
No, because as I said, I mean, there are so many metrics. I mean, obviously, we're not going to YOLO anything, right? If anything, I would like to go fast. If anything, I think we've been too conservative in the last year and a half. And I think in the last 6 months, we have realized and admitted that, and we're trying to go a lot faster. We have so many metrics that give us confidence that, for example, shortening blocks is going to be fine, even if all the blocks are full. Because with all the improvements we've been making to replay speed, for example, we know that today, in order to replay a 400 millisecond slot, it takes us about 40 milliseconds, right? So we know that there's a lot of slack, right? And we're not going to 100 milliseconds because at 100 milliseconds, I'm saying 100 milliseconds slots, right? We know that at that slot length, we would run into some issues with the turbine just because of like the propagation delay and leader handoffs and all of that. But at 200 milliseconds, we've been testing this for months. So we're pretty confident that at 200 milliseconds is nobody's going to know this. It's just going to work. And I mean, a lot of people are going to know this because it's going to be a huge improvement. But no key metrics are going to regress. We're fairly confident that it's a change we can do. We can probably do tomorrow. Like we have everything in place. We could do it literally tomorrow, and I think it will work.
I think people who have to sign really large transactions in parts, they are going to notice because the time frame in which you can sign all these transactions expires twice as fast. Is that also true? Is that something that you guys have considered?
So I actually don't know where we landed on the block hashes, whether we're going to double or not. I think we landed on doubling. So effectively nodding really changes with the block hash. But in any case, to give you an example, March 2025. So when Solana validator is about to become leader, it will start ingesting transactions a little earlier than the start of the first slot, right? So that if someone mistimes sending the transactions and they send a little early, then those are still accepted, or like they're queued and not lost, right? Then if they were not executed by the previous leader, then they're still executed by the current leader. March 2025, this time before the first slot where the leader started accepting interactions used to be 30 seconds, right? And I didn't like that because it increased latency, right? Like if someone was being sloppy and instead of sending to the targeting the current leader correctly, they just spam to everyone, hoping that the transaction would just land at some point. That worked, but was inefficient latency-wise, right? So I took one of my validators and I modified this time from 30 seconds to 2.5 seconds, right? Thinking 2.5 seconds is still plenty enough. If you're trying to target me, you're slightly off. Surely 2.5 seconds is off enough, right? Like it's, you might be bad in math, but like not that bad, right? Like you will still catch me. And to my surprise, when I did that change, my validator started making completely empty blocks. Nobody was targeting correctly, right? Everyone was just sending at the wrong time because their sender was behind for a number of reasons. And then I spoke to you guys, I spoke to Helios, I spoke to literally all the RPCs. And now, from the metrics we have, pretty much everyone sends within those 2 seconds, right? So we have the technology. We can improve things, right? Like, so if we shorten the slots and some things get harder and the load on RPC increases, that's fine. Like we will fix all the bugs. This is not super hard stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, when I said before, I'm confident that we can do 200 milliseconds slots and nothing breaks. I was talking at the cluster level. Will transaction senders, will other things break? Yeah, probably, but we'll just fix them.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I think that's all part of, fixing the plane as you go. Things will break, and yeah, we'll just have to fix them fast before we crash down. And then, yeah, obviously there's a big change coming for Solana, an even bigger change. The entire consensus mechanism is changing as well. Are you involved in that as well, or is that?
I am not involved at all. You should actually get Ashwin on because like I'm not involved, but it's a huge effort. I mean, it's the stuff I do, the kind of changes I do compared to that change are nothing, right? Like my changes are easy. Like if you have to replace a component that is slow and you can roll it out, you can test it on a number of validators first, and then once you have some confidence, you test on a few more validators, and then once you are completely confident, you ask everyone to use the new code. That's easy. But changing the whole consensus protocol while the plane is flying, it's extremely scary, right? It's a huge change, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if you can bully Ashwin to come on, then I would be very, very.
I don't know if I can do that, but yeah, of course it's huge. But let me give you a kind of a different take on why Alpenglow is great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, first of all, we until a year and a half ago, everyone kept saying, oh yeah, if we have we will have more outages, and like if we have some outages, it might be even bullish, right? Because it means that we're still accelerating, we're still improving, and all of that. And then I think we've done an amazing job on not getting an outage, right? Alpenglow is scary. It's like replacing, and I'm not saying we're going to get an outage. They're doing an amazing job at testing, with the community cluster and everything. But it is a bigger change, right? So my first concern is hopefully we don't get an outage, right? And I'm confident that we won't, but it is probably the riskiest change we've done in a long time, right? So I think we all have to understand that. But why Alpenglow? Let me tell you why Alpenglow is great. It's going to have faster finality and all the things that you read in the marketing flyers. But to me, the best part is that we get to delete all of the power code, all of the old consensus code, right? That code is even scarier because that code has organically grown for years and years. And there have been so many security issues that we've just papered over with like ad hoc fixes here and there. And we've come to the point where there's probably just Ashwin and maybe another person who understand how the thing works. And so if God forbid something happens to Ashwin, it's like we don't go to the moon anymore because we've lost the technology.
Oh, damn.
Right? So that's why I'm extremely excited about Alpenglow. It's much simpler. It's something that you can actually reason about, right? It has a well-defined state machine. So it might be hard to operationally ship it, but once it has shipped and once it works, it will be such a relief that we can just delete a bunch of really old, really bad garbage code from the old consensus.
Is it going to be a fresh slate for Solana, in your opinion?
I mean, for us working on Agave, it's going to be a huge improvement, right? Like there are a lot of things that people don't see, but like I'm not saying that we've had like, near misses on outages and stuff, but there are cases where things have happened and we're like, oh wow, so Tower can do this. We didn't know, right? So it's going to be a lot easier for us to maintain it. It's of course great, even just for users, right? Like you won't have to care about confirmation status and all that weird stuff. You just know that your block gets finalized and that's it, and gets finalized quickly. I don't know if it will change a lot for traders, because if you're a trader, you will still want to be using shreds as your input into the chain, right? But it's a huge simplification, and it's an amazing job that they've done. And obviously, at some point, once they tell me that the code is stable, I will start more aggressively profiling it and making sure it actually works and all of that. But so far, they've done an amazing job. I've not been personally involved, but it's again, you should get Ashwin on because he's been doing a crazy amount of work.
Awesome. With I want to step back real quick because Alexander Gray has a request for you. He's asking for 4K transaction sizes. Is that something also coming with bigger blocks, bigger transaction sizes, or is that more difficult? Right?
So I'm actually really sad about that because that was supposed to come next week. And then we found an issue. And so now it's coming end of July as well. But that one is really close. It was scheduled to come literally next week.
Sorry, Alexander. You have to wait a bit longer. What is the strategy going to be for the Alpenglow release? Is it like, all right, we're going to say we're going to have scheduled maintenance. So there's going to be downtime, but then hope the chain does not go down and say, haha, we tricked you. And then if it does go down, say, yeah, well, we announced it. Or is it going to be, are we going to go smooth and then fail miserably, possibly?
This is why I gave you the whole speech before, right? No, the idea is that it will just work. And of course, we will only do it when we're confident that it will work. Then bugs happen, but the idea is that it will just work and people will just know that, it's like when they do the test on the community cluster, when they have Tower and then they activate Alpenglow and you look at the Explorer and you just see finalization go like down, right? The idea is that will happen on mainnet as well. There's no downtime. There's no, it's funny, like Coinbase yesterday, they tweeted, oh, we're the first exchange to have, one-to-one redeemable stocks and blah, blah, which wasn't true. And then today I was seeing that when, the IPO went live, they actually had some downtime. No, we will not do that. We will try to keep the plane flying. Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I think that is the whole upside of having a decentralized system, right? It's if parts go down, the rest can still work. And yeah,
it's also like we don't do things because they're easy, but because we thought they were going to be easy, right? Like it's a lot more interesting to just do it, right, than to say, oh, we're going to stop the chain. Like it's it's a distributed system. You're not supposed to stop the chain, or what are we doing here?
One more hard quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to touch up on your competitiveness because that's something I love seeing on the timeline. You're super competitive. While the Agave client is being built, Alpenglow is being built, there's also Firedancer. And you and the Firedancer team have been in a, I feel like it's been like a race who can ship the best code, who can get the fastest client going. Were you always like this, or is it really something about Firedancer that makes you so passionate about what you're doing? What's that like, or is it just fun and games?
First of all, I want to say that there's some people that work on Firedancer in the Firedancer team that are super funny. Like we just have fun teasing each other, and there's no. Sometimes we actually have fights, but like it's mostly just banter, right? And it's I mean, I'm not joking, but like at some point I sat at a table I think it was still labs. It was not Anza, like a labs retreat, where the idea was Agave is doomed. We just let people do Firedancer now, and then there will be this ad interim period where people will run Firedancer as the main client, and then Agave as the slower fallback client.
How did that land with you?
And yeah, exactly, right? I literally got drunk and I went back to my hotel room and I thought I need to do something, or like this will have been like the biggest mistake of my life, right? So since then I decided to make it faster, right? And I think it's going pretty well. And I personally think that, I mean, maybe it's still a race, but I think we won race. But anyway, that's debatable. But it's been great. I've said this many times, but Firedancer is the best thing that happened to my Solana career life, right? Because it gave me freedom to do whatever I want, to just go and make things faster. It's great. I love them. Thank you.
And I think client diversification is super duper important as well. So yeah, it's
Maybe that's a Vitalik thing. Like, I mean, it is true that it's important, but at some point, like, I don't think that two clients improve security. Like, I mean, objectively, two clients do not improve security. They make consensus failure easier, not harder, right? I mean, yes, then marketing will tell you, oh, but it's very unlikely that the same bug is exactly in the two clients. But it's not really true, because Solana does not have Solana is a complex protocol, right? It's not like one of those toy blockchains. Like a Solana validator is actually a complex piece of software.
wow.
And so in many cases, like one of the main gripes that the Firedancer team has with us is that some parts of the protocol are really, really bad. And they are right. But they have no choice than to implement it exactly in the same shitty way that the labs people implemented it 5 years ago, right? So, I mean, yeah, I guess marketing wise, we should probably say that it improves something, but I'm not that sold.
All right. What are you the most excited about after Alpenglow? Do you think MCP is something that is achievable? Should we pursue it? Is it something you're hesitant towards? Yeah, tell me a bit about that.
So I think many things. I think that we've been talking too much about MCP. I'm super excited about shorter slots, right? And I'm very happy that at some point, 2 months ago or so, at Anza, we all decided, okay, this is something that we can achieve very quickly. It's something that will immensely help everyone. It will help prop AMMs. It will help, the biggest users of the chain. So I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited about, in general, incremental changes. And about MCP, I do think that solving censorship would be a huge thing, and it's something that we should strive for. I don't know that we need to solve censorship 100%, as in we need to make censorship impossible, or if we need to mitigate censorship. I don't know, right? I think that at some point, I mean, it's like if you ask, if you go to an academic, right, and you tell them, hey, do you want to do something that works 100% and it's going to take 5 years, or do you want to do something that works 99% of the times and we can ship in 2 months? The academic will tell you no, because the thing that doesn't always work, it's not correct by some definition of correct, right? And it's true, but would it help, right? Like, would it practically help and make the status quo better? So I think that we've been talking too much about MCP. I think that we do, like, some of the issues that the MCP proponents bring forward are objectively real, and we need to do something about them. I think it's not very smart or interesting to talk about MCP if it's something that it's going to take 2 years, right? In general, software does not work like that. If something takes 2 years, you're probably building the wrong thing, right? Because then it takes 2 years, it ends up taking 3 years. Then 3 years, maybe you had an opportunity in the market, and it's too late when you ship it. See Ethereum, right? Like, there is a reason if Ethereum is slowly dying, allegedly.
Is it
right?
is it slowly
Because
dying though?
things have to evolve. Like, things have to evolve and to change, right? If everything is a 5 years roadmap, in 5 years, reality will be so much different from what it is today that the risk is that you end up building something that in 5 years is not even needed anymore, right?
Yeah.
So you have to have some kind of long-term vision, but if you start from the outset and you say, okay, we're going to start this project and it's going to be shipped in 2 years, to me that's a failed project. It's unlikely to happen because software, it's hard to develop in such long timelines. If the people who propose MCP say, and I think this is what they started saying recently, if they say the final vision is in 2 years, but we can start doing these incremental steps towards getting to that final vision, then yeah, sure, let's do those, right? That makes a lot more sense to me. And I also understand that for the narrative, you need to talk about the final vision, but personally, that final vision is not very interesting because there are so many unknowns that, yeah.
What does a final vision even mean? If Solana is still around in 2030, what's it, is it still going to be the final vision then, or is there going to be
Yeah, you don't know, right?
interplanetary state machines?
Yeah, should have bought SpaceX. I didn't buy any SpaceX. Should have bought SpaceX.
All right. Last question, because we're nearing time, and I don't want to keep you longer than I'm allowed. What will the Solana landscape, the blockchain landscape, look like in 5 years? Will blockchains still be relevant? Will they be necessary? And what role is Solana going to play in that?
I thank you for the question. I don't think I have any. I will answer the question. It's funny because I think I have no particular insight in answering the question, but I will tell you what I think. I personally, this is obvious to me that if you have a trading platform that is available globally instead of having a bunch of tiny little regional, national platforms or whatever, that's a better end state, right? It's more efficient. There is just more capital. There is more, there's a lot of people are very American centric. I am not. I am in Thailand right now. I see people pay with their phones and QR codes, and nobody uses cash, and nobody uses Instagram or any of the US software that people use. There is a whole world. And if you can move a big part of the financial infrastructure to that world, make it accessible to everyone, obviously that has huge value, right? I am personally not too interested in speculation and gambling and stuff. I'm not a gambler. I am super interested. Like if I could close my investment broker account and do all my stock trading on Solana, I will do it tomorrow. I fucking hate my stockbroker. Like it's they every time I move somewhere, they block my account for 2 weeks. It's a nightmare, right? So I am very I that will happen for sure. In my mind, there is no doubt that someone will build that just because it makes so much more sense, right? All these little walled gardens we have today, they will all disappear. Whether we let some centralized company do it or we do it in the open as open source, that's up to us. And if we do it open source, I think it will be a huge achievement, and it's what I want, right? I want to, in 10 years from now, I want to look back and be able to say, oh, I built that open source financial infrastructure thing that everyone uses, right? That's what I want to do. And people will gamble, they will do meme coins and JPEGs, whatever. I have no interest in that part, but I want to build the infrastructure, the substrate for people to do whatever they want. I want it to be open source, and I want it to be permissionless. The fact that it's permissionless, it's super important to me, because if you build a blockchain that a company operates, then it's like the dumbest way to build something like this, right? So if we do something that a lot of stakeholders can drive in different directions, can operate, can run their own validators, that is open source, to me that is a huge value.
Yeah, I think that's why we work so well together. Triton One and also Anza Labs.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on to my podcast and telling us about the upcoming releases. So in 2 weeks, increase the use. In 6 weeks, decrease slot time. And then Q3, Alpenglow upgrade. Did I miss one?
So Alpenglow is going to be frozen and finalized by 6 weeks. Then the rollout, we will see how long it takes. It's not up to me. It's up to, the confidence we have and Ashwin and Brennan and, but the idea is that code-wise, it's ready in 6 weeks.
Damn. All right. See, ask Ashwin if he has time to come on my
I will.
on my podcast and share a bit about his work and the work he's done. Thanks again for being on.
Thank you for having me.
This was fun. If you're listening and not following Alessandro, his handle is at Alessandro D, and you should definitely follow him if you're in for a good time. And I hope to see you soon at Solana Breakpoint for an awesome presentation. And hopefully we didn't crash the plane with the upgrade.
Let's hope so.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Next week, I have someone from the Solana Foundation on my podcast. It's going to be Harkel. Also very fun guy. And I'll see you then. Thanks everyone for dropping in and asking the questions in the chat. I'll talk to you soon.